Today I have got 3 news items that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about them in a little bit more depth than usual because I think that we can take away from them things that we can learn that will impact our experience on a cruise, and that is really what we're looking for around here. So let's go ahead and get started. Hi there, this is Allison with Let's Go Travel Tips. Today is Saturday. It is March 30th of 2024. And like I said, I've got 3 stories that I want to talk to you about, but let's start first with a quick update from Baltimore. So we have been following along the story with that container ship hitting the bridge there in the harbor. The harbor there at Baltimore is a huge commercial shipping port. In addition to that, we've got 2 cruise lines that are housed there right now that are home ported. We've got Royal Caribbean and Carnival. Both of those cruise lines have announced that for the foreseeable future, they are going to use Norfolk, Virginia as their home port. However, today, John Hield made an announcement and said that the Carnival Pride, which was due to return to Baltimore on April 7th, is still going to try to return to Baltimore on April 7th. So I have not seen anything that says where in Baltimore they're going to try to dock or what the logistics will look like for that, but I felt like it was really important to let you know what's going on and try to keep you up to date on that. If I learn anything about that, I will pass it along to you. So if any of you are actually on that sailing, let us know what you're hearing, or if you know anyone on the Carnival Pride. It's really interesting what's going on there. We continue to keep those people that have been affected by that in our thoughts and prayers, and especially the families of the people who were lost as they were killed when the bridge went in the water. Now, the next story that really stands out to me today is I am getting many emails, way more emails than I've gotten about something for a while, about people wondering about their sailings through the Panama Canal. Now, I know why they're asking. It's because it was March 21st. I looked back and checked. Aurora Expeditions announced that their ship, called the Greg Mortimer, was not going to be able to make their sailing set for April 20th. So they canceled that cruise. Now, in some of the reports that I have seen about that, it was reported in a way that kind of tied it to the water levels in the Panama Canal. But if you look at the press release for Aurora Expeditions, they do not cite the water levels in the Panama Canal as the reason that they had to cancel that sailing. And so I want all of you who have a Panama Canal cruise booked for this spring, because that's who I'm hearing from, don't be worrying about your cruise sailing. Everything seems to be going very smoothly with the Panama Canal sailings. We have not received any information that any cruises are going to be canceled due to the low water levels. And for me, I am praying that the people there in Panama will receive the rain that they need to end that drought. The Panama Canal is not only a very vital artery, a link between the east and the west there for shipping, but it also represents the livelihood of a lot of people who live there. So they need more rain so that that whole system can keep going. And so don't be worried. And then in addition to that, Gordon and I, we get to go with our group on February 21st of 2025. We are going to do a full transit of the Panama Canal from LA to Fort Lauderdale on the Coral Princess. So if you think you would like to come, we would love to have you join us. It's going to be an awful lot of fun, and we're going to get to see the Panama Canal. If you have not subscribed to our channel yet, will you please go ahead and hit that subscribe button? We'd love to have you with us. And if you appreciate my updates, would you please give this video a thumbs up? It makes all the difference, so thank you. Now, here is a really big discussion for us. We talk here a lot about cruising and the experience on board a cruise ship. So these other 2 stories that I've got to talk to you about are really big in my book. So first of all, I came across a headline, and the headline said, "Cruise line responds after Garden City couple among those left behind on African island." Turns out that there is a couple in Garden City, South Carolina, who let their local news people know that they were on board a Norwegian cruise, booked an independent excursion that did not make it back to the ship in time, and they were left behind. So it turns out that 9 passengers on Norwegian were left behind. They were on day 8 of a 21-day sailing. And like I said, they booked an excursion with an independent tour provider, and they didn't make it back. The lady in the press report said that we were waiting for the tender boats to come back and get us because our boat was anchored off the harbor, but they didn't come back to get us, so we're stranded here. So of course, Norwegian has issued a statement about this, and so basically, it really their statement really highlights some of the intricacies that come into play when you miss your ship. First of all, they point out that cruise passengers are responsible for the costs associated with trying to meet the ship at the next available port. The next available port is a really important way of putting it, because sometimes you can miss the port in one port and you think, well, I'll just pick it up at the next one. But sometimes you can't, either because of logistics and trying to get to that port, or that port maybe will not allow people to join the ship in that port. There's a whole lot that goes into that. The other thing that is really important is how this is handled, and of course it's handled the way that cruise lines handle this. Norwegian says that when the guests did not return to the vessel at the all-aboard time, their passports were delivered to the local port agents to retrieve when they returned to the port. And then, of course, they say our team has been working closely with local authorities to understand the requirements and necessary visas if the passengers want to try to meet the vessel at the next available port. And so a whole lot more goes into being able to join a ship at the next available port than I think we often think of. So here's the discussion that I want to have with all of you. First of all, when you go on a cruise and you consider what all of the ports are, kind of have in your head as you plan your excursions 2 things. Number 1, how hard would it be for me to get to the next port? I know every once in a while when I am somewhere and I think I want to do an independent excursion, I have had the thought, well, what would it mean if I miss the ship? And often that will guide the decision that we make about what excursion we're going to book. The other really important thing when you look at that is look at how you're going to get back to the ship if anything happens that is unexpected on that tour. Because sometimes you're in a place, you're not too far from the ship, on that excursion, you know how you can get back if the bus breaks down that you're on, anything like that. So that would make it a much easier decision. But if you are in a port and you've got a day and they're going to pick you up right when you get into port and they're going to bring you back in the nick of time for all aboard, you maybe are going to want to think about that again. Think twice, because if anything happens, you have now missed the ship. So I just really want people to keep that in mind. I think that sometimes in this world we can be late to places and somehow it's okay, whether it's an inconvenience to people who are waiting for us, or if, it doesn't seem to matter too much. We can be late and it's okay, but there are places you can't be late, and the all aboard on a ship is one of those places. I remember Gordon and I took a Baltic cruise back in 2016, and that whole time there were people who kept straggling in right after the all aboard time. And so when we hit Helsinki, Finland, the captain actually announced over the loudspeaker, he's like, I cannot wait for anybody again. We have a really tight schedule, so if you're not here, we're going. And I believe we left people in that port because they didn't take him at his word. So take the captain at his word and be back on time. Now, the last thing that I think is really important for us to talk about is when we schedule a cruise. Now, 2 days ago, if you missed my video, make sure you watch my video where I talk all about booking an inaugural cruise, as well as going over a lot of things that are really helpful when you book any cruise. But today we're going to talk about when you're going to book your cruise. We've got Let's Go family members who are on the Discovery Princess, which is this ship that we are going to be getting on Wednesday for our Eclipse cruise. And she bumped into people who work in the kids club. And they mentioned that there are about 100 children on the sailing that they're on right now, which has been a round trip from LA to Hawaii. And but on the next sailing, there are going to be 700 children. Now, that next sailing is March 31st through April 3rd. It's this little window of time that is between that round trip to Hawaii and when our Eclipse cruise is going to begin. So here's what I want you to keep in mind when you're booking your cruise, and why there can be so many more children on board during certain times. And you really need to pay attention to it. I want to start off by saying, first of all, I love children. I have children, I have grandchildren, and they are the most important thing, along with my Gordon, to me in the whole world. But doesn't mean I necessarily want to sail with a bunch of children. And so it's really easy to forget what time of year it is. So here in the US, so if you're coming from abroad, this is really helpful to know, as well as really important to think about. Now, historically, spring break starts here in the United States usually around the beginning of March, and depending on when Easter falls, it usually ends about the middle of April. And so with Easter being March 31st, just tomorrow this year, it'll usually end like the week after that, but not always, but usually pretty close to that. And so as you plan your travel, if you don't want to sail with an awful lot of children, you're going to want to be really leery of booking during that spring break window. Doesn't mean you can't. Heavens, you can still book and go. Last year, we had several Let's Go family members who shared with me that both on cruises from Mexico on Princess, as well as cruises in the Caribbean, that there were over 1,000 children on their sailing. And that's not bad. It just affects the overall cruise experience. And so we're all looking for different experiences when we sail. So I really want you to think about that when you sail. Be aware of spring break time. Now, it'll be really interesting to see how many children are on our 10-day sailing that starts on April 3rd. Not only because of the proximity maybe to when spring break is ending, but also because it's a 10-day sailing rather than a 7-day sailing. So if children are going to miss school, they're not going to just miss a week, they're going to miss a week and a half. So like I said, and I'll let you know, I'll find out and let you know next week how many children are on board. The other really important times that I think you should pay attention are summertime, because the school's out. Makes perfect sense that families do vacations during the summertime, and then also around the holidays. So usually around Thanksgiving, and then at the end of December and New Year's, all of those holiday times, you generally see more families and therefore more children on board. And like I said, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. You just want to look for the experience that you want to have and be aware of when you book your cruise. And so I'm going to go forward and talk about some other things that I think you should really keep in mind as you choose not only where you're going to cruise, what cruise line you're going to cruise on, but also when you cruise. There's a whole lot that goes into that. We talk about Princess an awful lot here, but I'm going to try to do a good job of talking about some other experiences that I think are really important. So I hope you'll stick with me. If you have questions about any of that, put it in the comments. If you have suggestions, I'd love to hear from you. Now, the last thing that we're going to talk about here is our background. This is Antarctica, and I love Antarctica, but we need a different background to rotate through and to have behind us. So when we get back from our Eclipse cruise, we're going to get another background printed out. So I've been trying to decide, and I thought it would be kind of fun if you want to vote. Just kind of tell me, should we have just a big ship back there? Should we have like something a little bit more like a beach, or a little bit more ocean with a ship? Just a beautiful, beautiful ocean with a sunset. We've got some really beautiful pictures. Should I put Santorini back there? What should I do? Just thought it would be kind of fun to talk about together. So as we talk about all this, I thought it would be really helpful if you would add to the comments some of the things that you have experienced, some things that have really impacted the cruise experience that you have learned and would benefit all of us. So I look forward to reading your comments. I'll be seeing you all here again tomorrow. I'll be talking to you all again really soon. You all take really good care. God bless you. Love you. Bye-bye.